Most of us, when we have troubles, when we are worried, we try to find solutions from the world. We think we will be able to overcome the trials of life using our intellect, using our will. But actually, the most important thing that we should do when we are faced with trials and tribulations is to turn to the Lord. It's important for us to find consolation in the Lord. It is when we come to the Lord with our worries, with our fears, with our anxieties, when we learn to articulate our pains, that we find consolation from God. Very often, sometimes in life as well, our friends might not be able to solve our problems. They can only listen. But that listening is good enough. Actually, we don't expect people to solve our problems in life. Most problems have to be resolved by ourselves. But for people to hear us out, for people to understand us, for people to encourage us, for people to continue to have hope in us, that gives us the strength. So it's not a question of having a solution, but it is being assured that we are not alone in our journey. And I think it is important that we turn to God so that we can bask in His love. When we feel the love of God, we feel the presence of God, that gives us strength, that gives us courage, that gives us hope. When we are loved, we always can do more. When we are loved, we can carry on the burdens of life. People give up only because when they don't feel that they are loved. So it's very important, being basked in the love of God. But Jesus asks us to come to Him, not just because we want to bask in His love, but also to come to Him so that we can find enlightenment, to ask God to help us to see life differently, to put on the mind of Christ, to put on the heart of Christ. So sometimes in life, it is not a question of suffering. It is a question of, do we see meaning and purpose in our struggles, in our suffering in life? If that suffering has a purpose, has a meaning, then we do not mind. So sometimes when we know that the sufferings that we are going through, they are means for God to purify us, to strengthen us, then we do not mind the suffering. The problem is that we do not know the reason until when the suffering is over, then we see the rationale behind it, the wisdom of God. And Jesus comes precisely to reveal to us the Father, to reveal to us that we are children of God. Without Jesus, we will never realize that we are truly sons and daughters of God. Again, that gives us strength, gives us confidence. And that is the reason why you notice Jesus was able to go through the trial because He realized He is the Father's Son. And that is why Jesus was constantly reassured in His ministry. At the beginning of His baptism, at the transfiguration, Jesus also needs affirmation. He needs to know that the Father is with Him. When you are going through a problem, actually, even when God speaks to us, He doesn't speak to us all at once. He gives you a little foresight and a little understanding. And then over the months and years, you begin to understand deeper. And this is very important in life. And so that's why Jesus says, come to me and learn from me. To learn from Jesus is to learn from Jesus how to look at life in the way Jesus looked at life. How to look at sufferings the way Jesus looked at suffering. How to look at the struggles of life. That is what it means to come to learn from Him. To carry the yoke. Shoulder my yoke. The yoke is what? Yoke of commandments, the yoke of suffering, the burdens of life. So we must put on the same yoke. And the same way Jesus carried His yoke, we should carry the same. If we have the same vision of Jesus, the same mind, we will be able to carry. The moment you understand, you can accept all the struggles in life. And I think at the end of the day, it's making sense of life, actually. Making sense of suffering. Making sense of whatever we do. Making sense of the trials we go through. Once it makes sense, it's quite easy, actually. Then the burden is light. It's meaningless suffering that actually we find so difficult to accept. And this is where humility is so important. That's why Jesus, he was struggling in the Garden of Gethsemane. He said, thy will be done. He accepts the will of God. Sometimes we might not understand the will of God, but we accept because we know that God is wise. He knows best. And we can surrender our lives to Him. And when we surrender, again, yoke is easy, burden becomes light. We just have to keep on trusting Him. And somehow, whatever we go through, whatever sufferings, whatever setbacks, there is a purpose. And it is not an obstacle, but the means by which God is going to purify us, going to strengthen us, and going to perfect us. So with this faith, this humility, then of course, we will be able to carry our burdens in life, and most of all, we find rest in Him.